up in the morning, feeling mighty weak, a tossing and a turn. Well, I ain't had no sleep, oh baby, what roads all I've taken to romance or heartbreaking. Won't you say which way you're gonna go? I gotta know, gotta know, gotta know. 99 make 14, 4 and 4 make 9. The clock is striking 13. I think I lost my mind, you know it's getting aggravating. How long can I keep waiting? Tell me if you love me, yes or no. I gotta know, gotta know, gotta know. Oh, how much I need you. Have pity on this heart of mine. Well, if you need and want me to, I'll be your one and only till the end of time. Saw the fortune teller, had my fortune read. She sent me to the doctor who sent me straight to bed. He said I'm lonesome and I'm lovesick. I got my mind on lipstick. Will you kiss away my cares and woe? I gotta know, gotta know, gotta know. Oh, how much I need you. Have pity on this heart of mine. Whatever you need and want me to, I'll be your one and only till the end of time. Saw the fortune teller, had my fortune read. She sent me to the doctor who sent me straight to bed. He said I'm lonesome and I'm lovesick. I've got my mind on lipstick. Will you kiss away my cares and woe? I gotta know, gotta know, gotta know. I gotta know, gotta know, gotta know. I gotta know, gotta know, gotta know. I gotta know,
Okay.
This is Joe Crine, and this is Elvis Online. And I have singer-songwriter Paul Evans. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm doing good. It's good to be able to talk to you, sir.
Okay. Well, it's good to talk to you too. I missed this from AM radio. That I am old enough, of course, and had my hits at a time when AM radio was the radio for us pop guys, and I missed the being on the air stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I still do. I still enjoy doing DJing and stuff.
Sure.
So let me ask you, Paul, where were you born and raised?
Okay, well, I'm a New Yorker, born and raised, and still living here, and according to my wife, I will perish here someday. You know, I keep threatening to move out, but there's so much to do here, and I still am involved a little bit in the music business, which I would not be involved in at all if I was not in New York. So I'll stay here until I can't move anymore.
So what did you want to do when you grew up?
Well, of course, a fireman.
Jeez. You knew how many times people have said that to me.
Yeah, that for some reason. Yeah, I did. I liked the trucks were fun. They were red, and the guys were big, good-looking guys and tough and strong, and I wanted to do that. But the truth is, I was in high school, and I ran my high school's variety shows, so I was hooked on that. I did go to college for 1 year. I went to Columbia. Actually, I had a scholarship at Columbia, but that was for engineering. And the reason I chose engineering is I couldn't think of anything else. And then after my first year, I said, let me try getting into the music business. And of course, everyone in my family called me a dummy. Hey, stupid, what are you kidding? You got a scholarship? Are you crazy? I said, well, I promise I will take only 1 year off. If I don't have some kind of success in that year, then I will go back. And I would have. But I had, besides a couple of small R&B records and stuff, I had a win, the Kalin Twins record in 1958. So I said, good, I can take, this is what I'm going to do. And that was the end of any question. No more engineering for me.
So what were your early musical influences?
Well, it had to be the rockabilly guys. I mean, first came R&B, and I guess I'll say the one record that I remember is my going, wow, what is this? Was Earth Angel by the Penguins.
Sure.
And Yow, I remember thinking Yow. And then I started, because I've always loved country music, the rockabilly guys got my interest. And of course, Elvis. I remember Elvis being interviewed on the one country station. It was in New Jersey. I was living in New York at the time, and I could get that station. It was called Barkin' with Larkin, and it was a country only show. And Elvis Presley was interviewed, and I was hooked.
Wow. So let me ask you something. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to be a singer or a songwriter?
You know, I should really have a stock answer for that ready for that question, but I don't, and it's a tough one. Honestly, I don't do much of it anymore, but I loved being up on the stage. I'm a natural born ham bone. I just love being up on the stage and making the audience feel good. But I must say, as a writer, you have other people record your songs, and they come back with their own interpretation. And it gave me a chance as a writer to be involved with the Presley craziness, and that was wonderful. I remember when I got my first Elvis recording of a song called "I Gotta Know," which was on the other side, by the way, of "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" Not a bad side to be on the other side. And we got up to about number 15, if I remember, on our side. Those are the days when there were A and B sides, and Elvis's A and B sides usually hit the charts.
Right.
So that was really fun for me. The one song I'm thinking of an Elvis kind of singer was Orbison, and I remember hearing Roy Orbison's "Ooby Dooby," and that really influenced me a lot because I thought, the lyrics are "Ooby Dooby, Ooby Dooby, Ooby Dooby 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 Doo-wah, Doo-wah, Doo-wah," and I said, I think I can do that. So, honestly, I swear. And I remember thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, this is maybe not as hard as I thought. I wasn't Roy Orbison, but I was me, and I could do that. So that was really a big influence in my life. I think that's a song that made me say, I'm not going to be an engineer. There's no way. I'm going to be a singer.
See, and Elvis was a big fan of Roy Orbison's.
That I didn't know, but I couldn't. We were all. I mean, Roy Orbison was Roy Orbison. He was a unique guy. I was more into the pop area as a singer. But the fact that I could get, I remember when I Gotta Know by Elvis. It crossed my mind that I didn't have to write anything else. I had Elvis do one of my songs, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, what else do I want? But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but of course you always want more, and you always want something else, or else you just get static and stand still. So I think the answer to your question after this long tirade here is probably writer. My songs are still happening. I have a couple of commercials running now on my old songs. One on When, by the way, which I wrote in I wrote it in '57. It came out and it was a big smash hit, the Kalen Twins record, in '58, and here it is in 2014, and it's running as a pretty big commercial in England for a furniture store, and that's the amazing thing about writing, is that the songs, they just don't give up.
Yeah,
it's really fun for the writer.
So, what was your first successful song as a songwriter?
Wow. Well, it depends on what you call successful. I mean, When was my first real hit. I had a couple of R&B records, one called Valerie by the Mellow Kings, right? And the Schoolboys did a song of mine. They hit the charts. Frankie Lyman did a song of mine.
Yeah.
So you can see I was really into very popish stuff. And then, of course, I had some country songs recorded, and then Elvis, and of course my own in 19. Actually, this will blow your mind a little bit. My first hit as a singer was 1959. Mm-hmm. It was Seven Little Girls Sitting in the Back Seat, and that really got me into the business. When started me in the business, and Seven Little Girls, you kind of had to be an artist at the time. Really, to make sense, to make yourself some kind of a star. Writers became stars soon after that. I mean, the Kirshner crowd, Sedaka Greenfield and Carole King and her husband and that whole crew. Yeah, I mean, they didn't have to sing to be stars, but they were. I mean, Carole King is enjoying what seems to be an incredible comeback. I've seen her on TV a couple of times. Her performance on the Grammys was unbelievable.
Yeah.
She and I've forgotten the name of the a newcomer, but they were both wonderful. Carole King was just wonderful. It's really great that she's still out there doing it.
No, I'm actually a very big fan of Seven Little Girls. I actually have it on my jukebox. And it's always been a family favorite. Actually, when we get drunk, sit around and eat, for football or something we're watching, that song is always sang, and then we follow up with "She Stopped Loving Her Today."
I don't think I understand, Joe, but from one to the other. Do you have a Fred in the family?
No, it was just something my kids loved it, and they loved to listen to my jukebox, and then it just kind of stuck, and we just sing it all the time. It's just thank you.
That's another wonderful, unique thing of the internet is, I have a site. It's paulevans.com, and if you want to email me, there's a link to email me. And I get these wonderful, wonderful letters from people. The greatest one was a few years ago. I got one from somebody who told me I had been a part of his family for like 30 years. That was about 10 years ago, be 40 years now or more. Good Lord, how long ago was that? 1959. I don't want to remind myself. That was a long, long time ago.
I think everybody should check out the video for Seven Little Girls with the puppets in the back seat.
Yes, that was on. There was actually the Dick Clark show. If people want to see that, I mean, they can look up Seven Little Girls and Paul Evans on YouTube, or they can go to my site, and I have a link to Seven Little Girls in all my videos that are up there. But that was fun to do. I must say, Joe, that era was just a lot of fun.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Now, Fabian was supposed to be the one to release I Gotta Know. Can you explain that to us, how that happened?
Well, what happened, yes, I can. I don't know how it happened, but I can explain the process that took place. I got called. I had written I Gotta Know. I had submitted it for Elvis, and Elvis had cut it. There was a little kind of a cabal. You knew when he recorded, and you knew when he was up for a recording session, and I was in New York, as was his major publisher, which was Hill and Range. Everything had to go through Hill and Range. So anyway, I submitted the song to Hill and Range. They approved it for Elvis. They sent it to him. He liked it. He recorded it, but it hadn't been released yet. And I got a phone call from Hill and Range, his publisher, and they asked me to come up to their office, and they said, "Look, Paul, we know that you want Elvis, but you know that he cut your song, but we don't know if it'll ever get released. There's no guarantees about anything. All we know is he's in the can." I go, "Okay, well, that's nice." They said, "But we have a new kid that we want to record this song with, and Paul, if we record it with this kid, Elvis' record will never come out because he will not be known as a cover artist." So I got hysterical. I said, no way, I want Elvis. And I don't know why they asked me, Joe. That's the part of the story I really don't understand. No publisher ever asked permission of a writer. I don't know whether the guy up there, Fred Beanstalk, who I knew very well, whether he's doing me a favor. I don't know why he asked my permission to have the song cut by this new kid, who turned out to be Fabian, and it would have been on the Turn Me Loose session, and it would have been terrific. Actually, when I left that meeting, and I was exhausted, I mean, they promised me they would not do the song with anyone but Elvis. So when I went out, I was exhausted, and I ran into my co-writer, a fellow named Matt Williams, and he said, "Well, what was that all about?" And I said, "Well, they wanted to put it out with this new kid, and I told them we didn't want it." And he got so angry with me. It's so hard to get records and to get on a new kid that they promised they were putting a lot of money behind. So he was very angry with me, but he was no longer angry with me when Elvis's record came out, and the first check that we got was based on 1.5 million singles sales.
Yeah, that first royalty check will always change your mind.
And it didn't. It really did that time. Poor Matt. He went through a thing when he heard Elvis had cut the song. He did what a lot of writers then did. They got too sure of things. You know, Elvis's record might never have come out. He didn't know, but he this is terrible to say, but he left his job, left his family. He was going to be the writer in town, you know, who had a new Elvis. It's a long and sad story. I don't know what was involved at the time, but all I knew is that he disappeared from my life after the record did come out, and he just disappeared, and I have no idea what happened to him. I can't find him on the internet, so obviously something bad. I mean, it's a seductive business, Joe. You know, because it's so hard to get records. When you get a record and they can mean something, it makes you can run off half-cocked. I'm afraid that happened to my partner.
Right. Now, just so people know, that the other person that they wanted to release was Fabian, so it could have been a hit too.
Yeah, it could have been a hit, but it wouldn't have been with Elvis.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been on the other side of Are You Lonesome Tonight?
Right.
And it, like I said, it did hit the charts on its own. It hit, I think, went up to number 15. It's so long ago to remember, but it was a big song on its own. And I couldn't have made the money, and I couldn't have gotten the inroad. Now the people who cut Elvis knew my name, so that when a song of mine would be sent to them, I knew that they would at least take a second look at it.
Right. Now, what's the meaning behind I Gotta Know?
You know, I was just a songwriter. We wrote it as I Want to Know or something. We worked hard on the song, my co-writer Matt and I, and it was just two songwriters. I don't want to disappoint anybody, but that's how I wrote. Two songwriters sitting down in a little studio room with a piano, and I could play a little piano and a little guitar, and that's what should we write today? Basically, that was the meaning of it. We were ready to write a song for Elvis, though. I mean, when you heard Elvis was coming up, you just wrote for him. I mean, you wouldn't write anything else. You wouldn't write something that you knew he couldn't do or wouldn't do.
Right. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot because now Cliff Richard...
Go ahead, Joe.
Cliff Richard also released I Gotta Know.
Yes. Now, here's what... It was a fellow in England who has a magazine called the Elvis Magazine. Essential Elvis is called.
Right.
And he did an interview with me, and that same subject came up.
Okay.
How come Cliff Richard cut the song and had it out before Elvis did, after I just went through this whole story of he won't do anything if it's been cut by someone else.
Right.
I just got a copy of their latest magazine. I haven't read it yet. I just got it today, and it's going to explain to me in Cliff Richard, Sir Cliff Richard is going to explain in this magazine how he got to do the song and why that his recording didn't stop Elvis's people from releasing Elvis's recording. So you got me on the spot.
Well, you let me know.
I don't know. You know, it would be interesting for me to find out what Sir Richard says.
Right.
Sir Cliff.
Now you've heard both. Who do you think did it better?
Oh,
I'd rather not say.
No, it's not that I really wouldn't say, but it's almost cast in iron that the Elvis record was such a good record.
Okay.
I just what can I say? I once put a recording together because I had gotten some new machinery in my music machinery here at home, and I actually put my demo and Elvis's recording I made one song out of it. I mean, nobody else can hear it. They'd kill me at Presley Estate would absolutely kill me if anybody released this thing. But it was interesting that he did the song in the same key that I did it, and in the same tempo that I did it, so that without doing any shifting of the tempos, our records were click for click. You know, they're exactly the same tempo.
You just answered one of my
he did
questions.
that, I understand, with many people. They took the demo. They would generally add strings and the Jordanaires, you know, to the recording, to the demo. But they worked off the demo. I was actually flattered when I realized that he did it in my key, even though his voice is his timbre is a little higher than mine. So that's what they did. I was appreciative, and I was proud of myself until I found out that he did that an awful lot. He if he liked the demo a lot, he would just they would just add arrangement to it.
Well, I was going to ask that question, so just might as well just go with that one a little further.
Sure.
Did all the songs that he did of yours, did they pretty much match the demo that you handed in?
Pretty much. There was a song called "Something Blue," where we had put a piano intro on, and they matched that intro on one version. There were a couple of versions of Something Blue, and I can't give you more information than that because I don't know, but I know I've heard it with and without that intro that was on mine. And on a song called "The Next Step Is Love" that he recorded, we, on the demo, used these, what they call piccolo trumpets, very high trumpets. That kind of a sound. And there it is on Elvis's recording.
Wow.
I mean, it's very strange. I mean, he had the finest arrangers. It must have killed them, these arrangers, to have to be told, now, we love the demo, don't stray too far from the demo.
Right.
It must have really killed him.
Now,
I never met him, by the way. I know you're going to ask me.
I'm going to ask. Don't
stop
that.
Well, I never met him. I was in Nashville when he was recording, and I think it was I Gotta Know, and I knew his producer with the strange name of Felton Jarvis.
Yeah, Felton. Yeah.
Felton was a wonderful guy, and I went to the studio. I knew Elvis was in the studio recording, and I was told he was going to be recording my song. And I got a hold of Felton, and I said, "Felton, get me in. I just want to go in and, I just want to be inside. I want to stand next to Mr. Presley." He said, "I can't. Security is so big at these sessions." He said, "They would kill me if I allowed somebody in." That wasn't on the list. So I was standing there like a jerk outside RCA Studios, I guess it was Studio A, in Nashville, and I couldn't get in. It was a killer.
I bet. Now, did you ever write a song specifically for Elvis?
Oh, I Gotta Know. No doubt about it. Somewhere in my collection, which is buried deep in some pile of stuff here in my apartment in New York City, is the original lyric to I Gotta Know, which wasn't I Gotta Know. Many of the lyrics were the same, but like I said, I think it was I Wanna Know, or I don't remember the way we originally wrote it. And I know we worked very hard on that song. You don't take a lyric and change it. We must have changed it because we thought Elvis would like the song better.
Okay.
With the lyrics as they turned out. And I'm certainly happy we did it because we did wind up with Elvis. So.
Now, 1962 comes around, Something Blue. How did that song come about?
Something Blue. Okay, in 1961, I guess it was, one of my co-writers, Al Byron, walked into a studio. It's called Associated Studios here in New York, which was a very big demo studio. It was one of the two premier demo studios here in New York City. And he said, "Paul, I have a lyric for you." And what is that? And he gave me a piece of paper with the lyric, and I said to my musicians, I joked, I said, "Excuse me, guys, take a 5. I'm going to write a hit song." Ha, 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 ha. And I wrote a song with Al, and the song was "Roses Are Red, My Love," the Bobby Vinton smash.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked for a month trying to make the melody better, and I couldn't do it. So, I mean, that's the start of the story, that you never know what you got. Sometimes you think you've written the world's first perfect song and nobody likes it, and then again, sometimes you think you've written a piece of junk, you're ready to throw it out, somebody records it and it's a big hit. You just don't know. Anyway, that's the way Al Byron and I wrote, and Al brought me the lyric to Something Blue. So that was in that case, that was the lyrics by Al Byron and music by Paul Evans.
Okay.
Sometimes I wrote by myself. Sometimes I wrote words and music with somebody, and sometimes I wrote just the music. In Something Blue's case, I just wrote the music.
Okay, 1963, Blue River.
Yeah, Blue River was written with a fellow that wrote. He had a couple of hits on his own, and we had a song called Johnny Will, which Pat Boone had a hit with. And we wrote the same way. He was a lyricist, basically, and he had an office, actually, which was phenomenal. Nobody I wrote with had their own office, but he did. He had an office on 7th Avenue, right where all the action was. And so I remember being up there, and I remember the way we wrote was I'd pick up my guitar and I'd start just singing songs, and before you knew it, you'd wind up with a lyric. And the lyric was generally, when I wrote with Freddie, he wrote the same way that Al Byron did. He wrote a lyric. In fact, Freddie would not allow you to touch his lyrics. It was a very strange writing combination. He wrote Born Too Late. Uh-huh. And he wrote not Handyman, but the next record by the recording artist who recorded that, Timon, Good Timon. So he had a track record, and if Freddie didn't want me to touch his lyrics, okay, I won't touch your lyrics. So we wound up with a Pat Boone record, and we wound up with Blue River, which we walked over once again to Hill and Range, the only place to go to if you wanted Elvis at the time.
Right.
And they accepted it, and it was recorded by Elvis. That was not, in my mind, a sterling Elvis recording. It was a little sparse, but it was one of his rockin' records. So,
okay, 1970. Next Step Is Love.
Right, the Next Step Is Love. Well, that I wrote with again. All these are with different writers. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
I never really thought about that, but that is pretty funny. Okay, the Next Step Is Love I wrote with Paul Parnes. Paul and I had written a song called Happiness Is, which became a big cigarette commercial. I'm ashamed of myself. But it became a big cigarette commercial for Kent Cigarettes. It was called Happiness Is. The song was called Happiness Is. And they used it to imply, because they couldn't say on television or radio that happiness is smoking a Kent cigarette. They couldn't say, believe it or not, before they banned cigarette commercials completely off television, you were not allowed to say that you would get happy by smoking.
Right.
Isn't that strange? I mean, really, such tiny rules that you had to follow. But anyway, that song did very well for us because of the commercial. It was recorded originally by Ray Conniff, on CBS or Columbia, I guess, at the time. Mm-hmm. So there's the four. There are the history of my 4 Elvis records, each with a different writer.
Yeah. Now, what did you think about when you saw it and That's the Way It Is?
Oh, loved it to death. Loved it to death. I think they put on a preview, if I remember correctly. No, I'm thinking of another song. They did a preview of a movie that they used a song of mine in, and I'm just remembering that my mother, I got her into the preview, and when my name flashed across the screen, this little voice went, "Yay!" It was my mother. This is really fun.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's get serious here.
Okay.
What was the deal with the writing? With the Presley, I mean, I've talked to Michael Jarrett, another songwriter, and other songwriters, and it always comes up with this deal that you have to give so much over. Can you explain that to us, please?
Sure. You want Elvis, generally speaking, you go to Hill and Range, they get the publishing, and for some reason, they also took back a third of the writing credits. In other words, if you walked in with 2 guys, co-writers, as most situations were, you had to give a third back to Elvis, who, by the way, was never a member of ASCAP, never a member of BMI, the 2 collection agencies for radio and television performances, but they took a third back, and we went into the pot. I don't understand, just a show of power by the Colonel, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if Elvis was aware of this. And from what little I know of him, he probably would have said, no, you can't do that to the writers. Why would he want to do that? He was making enough money. Long story short, as short as I can make this, Joe, I managed to leave town every time I heard Elvis had recorded a song of mine. And so I wouldn't sign the third away, and they recorded it and released it anyway, which is, when you think about it, why weren't the other writers doing that?
Sure.
Then one day I went up to Hill and Range, and I got cornered by the lawyer there, and the lawyer said, "You sign this paper," and he showed me a piece of paper, and this is true, and I swear to it, it had every major New York City writer that I knew, including the Kirshner crowd, I believe, everyone on the side of the paper agreeing that whenever they would get an Elvis Presley recording, they would give a third back. So I said, I won't sign that. Freddie Beanstalk, who was the man who chose your songs, excuse me, he chose your songs for Elvis. Hold on a second, Joe. I'm talking too much. Anyway, I said, Mr. Beanstalk told me that I would never have to give back a third. And the lawyer said, that's a crock of you-know-what. And I said, well, then we'll walk into Freddie Beanstalk's office, and let's see what happens. So we walked in. I said, Freddie, you promised me that I would never have to give back. Got something in my throat. Hold on, Joe.
Yeah.
That should help. Okay. I said, Freddie, you tell this lawyer that you promised me that I would not have to give back any money. Sorry about my voice, Joe. I would never have to give back any of my writing share to get a recording. And Freddie Beanstalk said to me, I promised you this? I said, yes, you did. And if you want to take it back, I'll sign this paper like everybody else. But if you want to go back on your word, I tried to give him a little guilt.
Yeah.
And he said, he turned to the lawyer and he said, this man does not have to give back a third. And so I got away with it on a couple of my Elvises. I did not have to give back a third. And eventually they stopped doing that. I don't know what it was why they stopped demanding. That was a practice in the business, by the way. It wasn't just Elvis's people who did this. If you wanted any big star, generally they got a piece of your writing, plus the publishing. It was a terrible, terrible affair.
Well, I think that, and I'm not saying this about your music, but I think maybe that's why some of the music that Elvis was getting wasn't up to par.
Well, they went through a period where it wasn't up to par. I don't think it's because he chose bad stuff. I think either the people got defiant and said, I'm not giving you this, the good writers, and the other writers said, well, then here's my song, and I will give you a third back. Look, we all know that writers are easily scared, or they used to be. I think things have drastically changed. I think writers today are much smarter than my group was, and are much tougher, and they know the value of a copyright. I don't think we all knew the value of a copyright, like we were talking about before, Joe. That I've held on to some of my old songs, and here we are. I'm finding commercials cut on them from songs I wrote in the 50s.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? So if you had a Presley record, and you had to give back a third, most people said, well, that's a fair deal. He's the biggest artist in the world, and that's what the deal is. I'll take it. I got away with it somehow, and eventually they stopped doing that. I can't give you a year on this. I don't remember, but I do remember Freddie Beanstalk saying, Paul, you had something to do with this, that you wouldn't give back, and that other writers probably came in and said, well, how come Evans,
right.
probably gabbed about it and say, hey, guys, I got this, and I didn't have to do something. I didn't have to give back anything. Anyway, I always took a little pride in that. I had some spine. It took spine, Joe, because you wanted Elvis so desperately. You wanted any major artist so desperately. And if the rules basically were, then you have to give up something. Al Jolson's name wound up on songs. It goes back that far to everybody knew the value of the writing of the song, and they wanted a piece of it.
Well, I think it really had a lot more to do with the Colonel and not that much with Elvis.
I can't, from what I know, like we talked about before, from what I know, he would never have done that. He didn't need the money. What was the point of taking money out of writers' mouths?
Right.
There was no point to it.
Did you ever have any dealings with Colonel Parker at all?
Hold on, I just lost you for a second. What was that? Did I ever have what?
Did you ever have any dealings with Colonel Parker? Did you ever meet him?
No. I don't think any of my cohorts and people that were in the writing business ever saw him. He was miles above where we were.
Was like more Tom Diskin stuff, or?
Well, I don't know what it was like, but it was, yes, he was above the crowd. We never saw him. I never saw him.
That's probably a good thing.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I didn't make a lot of friends of that lawyer who threatened me. You know, he said, "I'll see to it, because if you don't sign this paper," before we walked into Freddie's office, he said, if you don't sign this paper, Paul, I'll see to it that you never get another Elvis record. And I guess that really was scary. That really did scare me, because I did go into Freddie and said, "Look, your lawyer is making me crazy, and if you want to go back on your word, and you want me to sign the paper, I will sign it, because I can't. He's harassing me so badly and threatening me that I'll never get another Elvis record." So I guess, and the truth is, maybe that piece of iron bar in my back started to bend a little bit. I don't know. Everybody was giving back.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had the cajoles to not give back, but I somehow didn't think it was right.
Right. Now, Paul, I saw on your site when Elvis passed away, it says on your site that he had 2 of your songs.
Yes.
Can you
that
tell
was
us
sad.
about?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about this.
No, well, one song's called "Tender Moments," and the other one was was pulled from an old poem. I'm singing the song to come up with the title. Do you have the title there?
No, I'm sorry, don't.
Desperate, not Desperate Moments. It's from a famous poem. But anyway, I thought this was the Elvis record. Elvis record would be an amazing record, because it was from a classic poem. It would be from a superstar, and what a combination! And it did sound like Elvis. I mean, when I did the demos for these songs that I knew I was going to show to Elvis, I did my best to use the kind of a voice that he had when I was doing demos for him. And so Quiet Desperation. I'm sorry, that's what it's called. Maybe one of your listeners will know the famous poem Quiet Desperation. And it's just the title we used, and we wrote our little song around it. Anyway, yes, it hurt that they were both accepted for Elvis. He hadn't recorded yet. In fact, I am told that the musicians were on their way to L.A. to do a session with Elvis. I've just been told this. I can't swear to this. When the pilot made an announcement that Elvis had died, and they were turning around and going back.
Yeah, they were on their way to go to.
They were on their way to a session. Yeah. For all I know, my songs might have been on there, because I know they were accepted for him. So of course I was bitterly disappointed. But somebody's dead. You can't. You can be disappointed all you want. You have to feel worse for the person who's not around anymore. Elvis was gone. It was a terrible blow. It's like it is a little like this Seymour Hoffman. Can't think of his first name, but who just died on. He's 46.
Yeah.
How old was Elvis?
42.
Just creepy, isn't it?
It
Creepy.
meant much to you. Paul, I didn't realize how young Elvis was until I turned 42.
Yeah, right. Right. That's true.
So how did you hear that Elvis had passed away, and how did you feel?
Oh, the way most people did, TV, radio, whatever. There was no special news for Paul Evans. He didn't, just because Elvis might have been recording one of his songs, that didn't mean anything. Of course, nothing. It was that he was dead, and I know what I was thinking. What a shame! What a waste! Yeah. I had seen a movie, Elvis. I think it was called Elvis. That's the Way It Is.
Yeah.
And on it, towards the end, if I remember, he comes on stage and he's big and he's bloated. I mean, he was in his big stage. He had something was wrong. And I remember I was in the theater and I yelled out loud, "No!" I didn't want Elvis to look like that.
Yeah, no, that can't be on That's the Way It Is, because he looked really good at That's the Way It Is.
Well, I don't remember what
That's
it was.
Okay.
It was
it's okay. Hey, what do you think? What do you think the everlasting popularity of Elvis Presley?
Incredible, incredible. It's just incredible. All the Presley imitators or lookalikes or try to sound alike. I don't understand it. I don't understand that. I understand his popularity. He came along at the right time. He was the everyman. I think everybody loved Elvis. Women loved him. Men loved him. It was crazy. I can't imagine who else lasted that long. Maybe the Beatles will last forever. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, what are you currently doing?
Well, I'm in the business. I'm still a little bit in the business, and I say a little bit because I still do some music for CBS Sports, although that is that's getting smaller and smaller because there's a new guy there, very nice guy, but much younger than I am. I mean, you got to know I'm in my 70s. So he, and this is a fellow in his 20s. Now, I remember being in my 20s, I did not want to do business with 70-year-olds. I just didn't want to. Who wanted to? So I suspect that that's coming to an end. However, my songs keep me in the business. As I said, I have a commercial for running here in the States, which uses Happy-Go-Lucky Me, which is one of the songs that I wrote and recorded. I have When is a commercial in England, and I did a commercial in Canada for the World Wildlife Fund. They're using my version of Happy-Go-Lucky Me. So that keeps me young. What can I say? You never know. I have 3 commercials running on 3 songs on 3 different recordings of mine. It's crazy, Joe, and it's wonderful. And it'll keep you young. This business just does it.
Well, I'm going to say goodbye to you now, but please stay on the line. I am
going to do that.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for doing this for Elvis Online.
Well, okay, thank you. And to your listeners, by the way, paulevans.com, come on over, take a look at it, leave me an email, I'll answer it.
Something old, the time's gone by. Something new, these tears I cry. Something borrowed were those lips my lips knew. And that's why I'm something blue. Something old, the vows we made. Something new, the price I paid. Something borrowed was lips my lips knew. Now my life is something blue. I guess that I had better smile, walking behind you down the aisle. I feel I'm walking to my doom. I'm really not the best man in this room. Something old, the dreams we planned. Something new, his wedding band. Something borrowed was the heart I gave. You returned torn in two. The dreams we planned. Something new, his wedding band. Something borrowed was the heart I gave. You returned torn in two. that's white and something blue.